Hello guys and welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if it's your first time here. My name is Marty and today we are watching Picnic-At-Hanging-Rock from 1975. This has been requested over on Patreon, so thank you so much for this one. I know you guys have been looking forward to this. This is a classic. Now, I know of this version and weirdly I've seen the newer version. Yeah, I think it was the 2019 version of it with Natalie Dormer, but that was a fair few years ago. Thinking back on it now, that's so many years ago, and where's the time gone? I know a rough idea of the story, but I don't honestly remember. If you want to check out the full uncut reaction, you can see it over on the Patreon page or as a YouTube member as well. But without further ado, let's watch Picnic-At-Hanging-Rock from 1975. On Saturday the 14th of February 1900, a party of schoolgirls from Appleyard College panicked at Hanging Rock near Mount Macedon in the state of Victoria. During the afternoon, several members of the party disappeared without a trace. Yes! It's given me flashbacks to when I watched the other one, but I don't remember what happened. The way Hanging Rock just comes into view. Yeah, have they taken still shots of the area and superimposed them, just faded them into one another?
What we see and what we seem are but a dream within a dream.
I like that. I like that we're establishing the shots of the girls so we know who they are.
Meet me, love, when day is ending. I love thee for thy high-born grace, thy deep and lustrous eye, for the sweet meaning of thy brow, and for thy bearing so high.
I love poetry.
7 and 9.
The way the poetry sounds as it just kind of rolls off the tongue.
I love thee, not because thou'rt fair, smoother than air, nor for the cupids that do lie in either corner of thine eye.
That's a good shot. Edited by Max Lemon.
What it might be, 'tis I love thee, 'cause thou lovest me.
Very poetic for the beginning of the film. Oh, if you don't know, by the way, I believe I'm watching the new remastered version of it. Taken from the Blu-ray. It's clearer and it's been cleaned up and stabilized and stuff. I'm also loving the panpipe music. That is panpipes, isn't it?
My little horse,
St. Valentine's Day.
trotting down the paddock on a ride. Someday, Sarah, you shall have to come home with me to the station and meet my sweet, funny family for yourself. Would you like that? You must learn to love someone else. I won't be here much longer. Somebody had the nerve to send Miss McCraw a card on square paper covered with tiny sums.
Wait, is this Australian?
Unless you all deport yourselves with rather more grace and considerably less noise, Mrs. Appleyard will see to it that none of you go to Hanging Rock today. I believe Mrs. Appleyard has decided you're not to go on the picnic, Sarah.
Why?
That makes 2 of us.
To St. Valentine.
It's an interesting one to watch, seeing as I've seen the newer one, but I just don't know anything. I can't remember a single thing.
Tais-toi, Emma. Oh, Macron vient d'arriver.
Love the outfits.
We are indeed fortunate in the weather for our picnic to Hanging Rock. But as the day is likely to be warm, you may remove your gloves. We'll partake of luncheon at the picnic grounds near the rock. The rock itself is extremely dangerous or forbidden any tomboy foolishness exploration. The vicinity is renowned for its venomous snakes, poisonous ants of various species, a geological marvel.
Poisonous ants as well.
I shall expect you back, Miss McCraw and Mademoiselle, at about 8 for a light supper. Come, girls.
Yachts. Come on. Pip pip. This version is really beautifully told, from what I can see so far, showing the girl's love for this girl here. Could be wrong. Could just be because she knows and is friendly to her.
That we may shortly be at the mercy of venomous snakes and poisonous ants. How foolish can human creatures be?
Look at the old town. I knew it was in the old days, but I didn't know it was going to be pretty much Western times. I mean, I know it said 1900, but I didn't expect this.
There she is, ladies. Hanging Rock.
The mountain comes to Muhammad, Hanging Rock comes to Mr. Hussey.
And am I right in thinking that this is from the newer one? Isn't this like a retelling of what the events were from the eyes of some of the people that were there, or something?
Thousands of years old.
1,000,000 years old, Mr. Hussey.
Supposedly.
Yes, of course that'd be right. Devil of a long time anyway.
Only 1,000,000 years ago. Quite a recent eruption, really. Must be all of 350 million years old.
Incredibly recent.
Siliceous lava forced up from deep down below. Soda trachytes extruded in a highly viscous state, building the steep-sided mammutons we see in Hanging Rock. And quite young, geologically speaking. Barely 1,000,000 years.
Waiting 1,000,000 years just for us.
But putting so much emphasis on how creepy and weird it is. Just to go, no, but it's just this. Yeah, a spot of tea. Lovely.
More cake, Michael.
I think I'll just stretch my legs a bit.
Be careful. There could be snakes.
And poisonous ants. Oh. That thing is massive. What was that? Oh.
How's it going? All right. The Colonel and the Missus, they finished eating, have they?
Oh, yes, they have.
Expect me up there in a minute, I suppose. Clear away. Can't be more than midday.
It's midday.
I thought it was a little early for lunch myself.
I mean, they did say at a certain time for lunch for the girls, didn't they?
They always allow an hour longer than it takes to get here. And then they got to eat straight away.
It always takes an hour longer to get here.
Not that they got anything else to do. I mean, they never go for a walk or nothing.
They just sit there and drink tea. Very British. It's so pretty, this film. The visuals are gorgeous. Ominous. Slicing the heart in half.
I hope you have learned your poetry, Sarah. Sit up straight, child. Hold your shoulders back. You're getting a dreadful stoop. You got your lines by heart?
I can't. It doesn't make sense.
You little ignoramus. Evidently you don't know that Mrs. Felicia Hemans is considered one of the finest of our English poets.
Excuse me? Call her an ignoramus?
I know another piece of poetry by heart.
What is the name of this poem?
An ode to St. Valentine.
Not acquainted with it. Where did you find it?
I didn't find it, I wrote it.
You
Aw.
wrote it?
Love abounds. Love surrounds.
No, thank you, Sarah. Strange as it may seem, I still prefer Mrs. Hemans. Proceed to recite to me as far as you have gone. Your book, please, Sarah.
Hogwash.
I can't.
Not one line?
The anger.
I expect you to be word perfect when I send Miss Lumley in half an hour. Otherwise, I'm afraid I shall have to send you to bed, instead of letting you stay up until the others return from the picnic.
She's a toad, isn't she? Well.
Bertie, Jesus, where are you? Oh, Miranda.
Why is she saying about where are they, though? Because she knows where they've gone. She's making it sound like they've been out for ages.
Rough winds do shake the darling parts of May, and summer's lease has all too short a day. Sometime too hot the eye.
See, this is the life. Being out in the sun, relaxing and enjoying.
Load up my watches and stuff. It's on 12 o'clock.
Wait, the thing that the kid said earlier about 12 and them giving each other an hour, but they're just here.
They always allow an hour longer than it takes to get here. And then they got to eat straight away.
You wouldn't have the time, I suppose, miss.
12 o'clock.
Miranda, pretty little diamond watch.
Don't wear it anymore. Can't stand it ticking above my heart.
I like that. It's ticking above that.
I'd wear it always, even in the bath. Would you, Mr. Hussey?
Stopped at 12. Never stopped before. Must be something magnetic.
Well after 2, I'd say.
Maybe there are magnetic fields?
I promised Mrs. Appleyard I'd have you lot back at the college by 8.
Maybe that's why the girl was acting as if they'd been out for longer.
Except for those people down there, we might be the only living creatures in the whole world.
Look at that though, it looks beautiful. Oh, there's the ants eating the leftover food.
I should like to make a few measurements at the base of the rock if we have time.
Oh, please, ma'am.
Is that what it is?
We'll be back long before tea. May I come too, please? We shall only be gone a little while.
Relaxing in the sun. It's wonderful.
Now I know.
What do you know?
Miranda is a Botticelli angel.
I think there might be a few feelings, like I said earlier, going around. It's Valentine's Day, of course. Are they okay? Are they even more affected by the time thing?
I don't know. Oh!
Thought the little fat one was going to take a bath.
Cheeky.
Some of them are real lookers. Have a look at the shape of the dark one with the curls. Built like an hourglass. And have a go at the last one. She'd have a decent pair of legs.
Oh my god.
Riley didn't say crude things like that, Albert.
Yeah.
I say the crude things, you just think them.
Yeah, but he's got more decorum.
The Sheilas are all alike when it comes to the fellas. Doesn't matter if it's a bloody college you come from or a Ballarat orphanage where me and me kid sister was dragged up.
I didn't know you were an orphan.
Haven't thought of that bloody dump in donkey's years.
I think he has feelings. No, it's interesting the slow down thing.
Stretch my legs a bit before we go.
Because I didn't know if he was seeing the slowdown. You know, like their time is slower. I think that's the 12 thing.
Way up there in the sky.
The top of Hanging Rock. The cinematography is doing a very good job of showing the time it's taking for places.
Why can't we just sit on this log and look at the ugly old rock from here?
Yeah, why'd you have to go to the edge?
I never thought it would be so nasty, or I wouldn't have come.
Oh, that music. Thanks for creeping me out. This is really familiar. Did they film the new... I know they filmed a new one, apparently now, in Melbourne, Australia. Did they film it actually at this same location? At Hanging Rock? That was interesting. The cut to then show slow-mo, and also to emulate the slow passage of time.
We can't go much further. Promise, Mademoiselle. We wouldn't be long away.
Also putting us in the shoes of them as well.
If only we could stay out all night and watch the moon rise.
Blanche said Sarah writes poetry in the dunny. All about Miranda. She's an orphan.
Sarah reminds me of a little deer Papa brought home once. I looked after it, but it died.
Why does she remind you of that?
Ma always said it was doomed.
What's that mean, Irma?
Doomed to die, of course. The boy stood on the burning deck, whence all but he had fled, tra-la.
I think I must be doomed. I don't feel at all well.
I do wish you'd stop talking for once.
Look her back soon.
Are they all okay? Get away from the edge. It's like they're drugged. Wow, that cinematography is gorgeous. Yeah, it's like they're high, basically. Can't think of the word.
Irma, look at them.
They're all doing the same.
Where in the world are they going? Without their shoes.
Without their shoes.
Wait for me. Please
Yeah,
wait.
Whatever can those people be doing down there? Like a lot of ants.
That's your girls.
Surprising number of human beings are without purpose. They are performing some function unknown to themselves.
I love that shot. Did she forget that they were the girls?
Everything begins at exactly the right time and place.
Picnic-At-Hanging Rock at 12. What? They're in a trance. They're in a trance-like state. That's what I was trying to think of. They're possessed almost by something. Very much so. With the sound of what sounds like it's the rock as well. You might want to look around at the girls. Okay, interesting. I didn't know if it mattered, but this scene with the girls here, the sun isn't shining anymore. It's dull, but it's still shining at the bottom.
Miranda, I feel awful.
Sounds like it was the birds that circle.
When are we going home?
I don't think they can hear you anymore.
Miranda? Miranda, don't go up there! Come back!
I mean, I'd go after her. Oh, God, that shivers. Yes, but then what's the time?
Gotta go. That's Mrs. Appleyard.
What time is it?
Love on Valentine's Day. 10:30 at night, and the girls aren't back.
Why are they so late?
Oh, they're back. Well, they're there at least. What happened?
Mademoiselle, why are you so late?
Something terrible has happened.
What do you mean? Where is Miss McCraw?
We left her behind.
What? Why?
You left her behind? Miss Lumley, get these girls to bed immediately. Cook! Hot soup, please, for all of them.
I must speak to you alone.
Is the other lady dead? Oh, God, and the other girls aren't back. The other thing I think of, because of, you know, we keep getting the slow motion shots whenever we see the girls going up the cliff, is that time was passing really different for them. So maybe at the moment they don't think that it's any later than the time that they left.
3 of your young ladies, Miss McCraw, missing.
And Miss McCraw, she was there.
What happened?
That's just the trouble. Nobody knows what happened.
Or did she go and find them? Because she kept looking up, didn't she?
How soon after the girls did Miss McCraw leave?
No one knows. No one saw her leave. We're all asleep.
And the little one?
I thought that was the guy from on the bus at first. Oh, get you, butler.
Tearing out of the bushes, dress all torn, screaming fit to. All we could get out of her was that she'd left the other 3 somewhere up on the rock.
She was okay. It's creepy that the rock looks like faces.
Try to remember, Edith, what it was that frightened you.
Yeah, why did she scream?
Think carefully, darling, carefully.
Did you speak to anyone?
Or was it just this presence in the air that she could feel?
Was there a man?
Her legs were quite severely scratched. From running through the brambles, I should imagine.
Nothing else?
Nothing I could detect.
I'm so intrigued.
She hadn't been
No, nothing like that. I have examined her. She is quite intact.
Well, I suppose if a girl comes back screaming and she now can't talk, you'd think something was up.
Since you won't tell me all the details, how can I give you an opinion, Lionel?
There are no details.
People just don't disappear, my dear. Not without good reason.
They did this time.
There's talk, is there?
Not just gossip. People have theories.
Go on.
Check the time on your pocket watch.
It couldn't be local. No one around here would do a thing like that.
I simply noticed these 3 young ladies crossing the creek.
Oh, yeah, they saw them.
What
yeah.
did they look like? Describe them.
The first one was tall and dark.
The little dumpy one. Really?
The last one was slim and fair.
That's 4. A few minutes ago you said there was only 3.
Says it was 3, yeah.
Oh yeah. That's because the dumpy one was back a little. Then they moved off into the trees, and that's the last we saw of them.
I sat down on a log.
Are you taking her back there?
Look around you, darling. Maybe you can see it now.
I was tired. I'm tired now. There is one thing I remember. It was when I was coming down, when I was running. It was a cloud.
What sort of a cloud?
Cloud?
It was red. It was just after I passed Miss McCraw.
Who did you say you saw?
She was going up the hill as I was going down.
Did you speak?
She was too far away. She was about as far away as those dead trees are over there. She was funny.
Why?
Funny.
What were you... What?
How?
I'd rather not say. It's rude.
Was she naked?
Les pantalons. She had no skirt.
No, pants. Yeah. Luckily that bit of French I understood.
You mean she was just wearing drawers?
So they were drugged. I think by the poisonous ants, maybe. Got on the food and they ate that. Maybe. But surely all the girls would have been drugged.
One last go. For the bloodhound.
They got to take her clothes so that they can get the doctor's scent. Amazing premise, though. The whole eerie disappearance and Why? So have they even gone up there? Further up into the rocks?
Why didn't you tell us you followed the 4 girls?
I didn't exactly follow them. Jumped across the creek and walked towards the rock for a little way.
That guy's listening in behind. You chasing the girls, were you?
In England, young ladies like that wouldn't be allowed to go walking in the forest. Not alone, anyway. But they'd gone by the time I came out of the trees, so I turned back.
As the girls were jumping the creek, what were you thinking of?
No, because it's going to make him... Beautifully made, this film.
The old man hired me to look after the horses. If I'm going to be a lackey at a bloody garden party.
Yeah, that guy. He hasn't anything to do with it, is he?
Had the bloodhound out the other day.
I was looking at his tattoo on his arm, but didn't know what it was.
I wake up every night in a cold sweat, just wondering if they're still alive.
The way I look at it, bloody cop, bloody abo tracker, and the bloody dog can't find. Well, no one bloody can. Well, that's the stone end of it.
Well, that's not the end of it as far as I'm concerned. They may be out there,
You try and find him. Go.
dying of thirst on that infernal rock. You and I are sitting here drinking cold bloody beer.
That's where you and me's different. If you want my advice, the sooner you forget the whole thing, the better.
Well, I can't forget it, and I never will.
Yeah, he cared about the girls. And they're just people in general. You care. Someone goes missing.
I want to go back to the rock to look for them. Will you come with me?
Beautiful birds, them swans. A week in the bush, they'd be dead by now.
Then I'll go alone.
There was symbolism in using the swan after fading from her shot as well. He's helping. I didn't think he would. There it is. So in real life, did Hanging Rock... Yeah, in reality, did Hanging Rock get its name as koala? Did Hanging Rock get its name from stories of this kind of thing, of disappearances and deaths, hence Hanging Rock? Oh, that's a good idea.
We'll have to be gone soon. Dark before we get back.
I'm staying here.
You're what?
Must be mad. I know he wants to look for the girls, but...
Well, what the hell for?
You're mad.
Yes, perhaps I am. But I'm still staying because somebody has to. Just because you lot are Australians.
You're a funny bugger. Woodend? The Victoria, sir. The little pub near the corner. Mr. Michael's pretty knocked up, sir.
Likely story.
Just about know how his aunt will take it.
As long as they don't start getting a weird thing against him now. As if he's done away with all these people. Cottage mystery deepens. 4 still missing. Look at that. I'd love to experience sunrise, sunset in Australia. Is he okay? He's not. Has he gone the same way? And he's got a very good idea. The sound effects and music. Because the same thing is happening with him, the whole time passing thing with the clouds.
Stopped at 12. Never stopped before.
Everything begins and ends at exactly the right time. Waiting a million years just for us.
A surprising number of human beings are without purpose. They are performing some function unknown to themselves.
Everything.
I knew they were going to add that bloody screaming. Oh! It sent chills. Absolute shivers down my spine.
Miranda!
Also, the use of the... Is that a theremin? It's like he was going mad. Now another one's gone missing. Yeah, the rocks are like faces. Yeah, look. They're keeping a watch over, looming over. Yeah, this will be a good way of him finding him. Yeah. Keep going. Oh my god. Oh, I haven't had proper shivers like that in ages. I mean, good on him for getting the police. What did he do? Part of the dress of the girl. I would have told the police immediately. Just said, he's just given me this. There at the side. Oh, it's paper. I like this shot. Just seeing the emotion on his face. Oh God. Wait, is she alive? Is she alive? Her eyes moved. The actress probably just moved her eyes, but still. Yeah, look, she's just opened it. Great shot.
They found and she's still alive. No one else.
Not the others, though. Not yet. Weird how she was the only one left, or the only one that's okay so far.
Well, go home. There's nothing you can do.
The clock, 12. Will he get the idea? No, they want justice.
For this merciful deliverance of our dear classmate Irma, and pray that Marion and Miranda, and our beloved Miss McCraw, will be likewise spared. Irma should convalesce at the home of Colonel Fitzhubert in Mount Macedon. Of the 3 remaining lost members of the party, there is no trace.
Wonderful news, Mrs. Appleyard.
Don't be so foolish, woman. But only one, far worse. 3, mark you, sets of parents have written advising me that their daughters will not be here next term.
Oh, who cares? Think about the girls.
Newspapers all over the world have headlined our morbid affairs. The 3 who have been withdrawn, plus the 3 still missing on the rock.
2, Mrs. Appleyard. Only 2 now.
That makes 6. Miss will not be with us next term. Several sets of tuition fees impossibly overdue. Sarah Wayborn, for instance. I expect we shall see our way through somehow. Just ask the Wayborn girl to come in to see me, please.
At least you managed to save one.
We get in the bush and nothing more serious than shock and exposure.
Wait, have they got the same cut on the forehead? Her and the boy? Interesting.
Quite scratched.
Like a ritual or something.
The fingernails are all torn and broken. The head is quite badly bruised. Blow, maybe? Or a fall? Then if she fell...
Did they fall off the cliff?
Why is the rest of the body unmarked? It's quite unblemished.
Unless she fell and hit her head some other way?
It is very strange as she was not wearing shoes or stockings.
We found no trace of him up on the rock.
She's quite intact.
What is it, my girl?
It's Miss Irma. It's about her clothing. There's no corset.
Oh.
It's missing.
It can't possibly be of any interest.
Seemed like she passed it over a bit too easily. It's just the way she sort of dismissed it. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine.
Someone reported seeing a light flashing around a pigsty on a place about a mile from the rock.
Some questions got answers and some haven't.
There'll be a solution turn up directly, more than likely. A kidnapping. They might have fallen down a hole.
Down in the crevices. Could they have done that, maybe?
Did you know, lad, there are some plants that can move?
No.
All plants move. Oh, wow. I knew there was stuff like Venus flytraps and stuff.
I have written several letters to your guardian, Mr. Cosgrove, Sarah, but I have not been favoured with a reply thus far. In fact, it is all of 6 months since I have received a letter.
Maybe he's disowned her. Or she's gone there herself without any parents.
You can no longer partake, and unless all your outstanding fees are paid, I'm afraid we shall have to make other arrangements. You will have to go away. There are places for girls in your predicament, institutions.
Like an orphanage. I mean, it's not her fault. She's also looking a little bit like Dorothy in the outfit, with the pigtails and the blue dress with the white pinny-looking thing on the front.
Sarah, what's wrong with you? Are you feeling ill?
You can hear the whistle of the wind.
People don't sit on cold steps in the dark unless they're weak in the head. You heard the bell. Go and wash for supper.
A little bit creepy.
Aren't you hungry? Then you best go straight to bed. Quickly.
I'm sick already. If I eat that, I'll be even sicker. Do you know what, Minnie? I was in an orphanage once.
Wait, she was? Is that why she went there?
I had a brother then, called Bertie.
Hence the Bertie mentioned earlier. I thought Bertie was the name of one of the girls, like a nickname or something.
I told the matron I wanted to be a lady circus rider on a white horse in a spangled dress. She was afraid I'd run away, so she shaved my head.
What?
Bit her arm, bled. So she painted my head with gentian violet.
What? That's full-on abuse. Like even the shaving the head thing against her will, just shave it off. That's not right.
And death is in the sky.
I feel sorry for them kids.
The ones on the rock, you mean?
Yeah, them too.
Yeah, and the ones left in the knowledge that they've lost them.
Here, at the college.
They're all right. Rolling in cash, most of them. Or at least their mothers and fathers are.
Some of them are orphans.
Now I know what you know. I know that Miranda is a Botticelli angel.
Thought maybe it was like they were praying, like they were talking to the girls. Yeah, it's like... That's so strange.
All right there, thanks, gentlemen. Smile, please. Come on, please smile.
Oh, so they're actually going to go up now, and a bit late, surely.
You have those horses over here, please.
Oh, Chief.
God, everyone's just menial little things. Let's have a cup of tea. Not find the girls.
All those not engaged. All those not engaged.
No, they're not fussed. It's just a media circus.
As if looking up. Right up. That's it, looking for a cave.
Who cares? Find the girls. That's a nice shot.
Oh, I thought you had gone forever. Has the handsome nephew paid you a visit yet? The one who found you?
Yes. And the policeman.
And you couldn't?
Nothing. Nothing. I remember nothing.
Is that her in the background? The girl that he liked? Just a ghost now. Ghost of what she was. This music is beautiful. The swan again. I think it's imagery for her. Like she's come back as a swan. Or that he sees her as innocent as a swan. She's dead. Everyone's just being very, very quiet, not wanting to talk to them. Maybe fear of upsetting them. They're all just standing there watching her. Look at that camera. I love old cameras, but I've not seen that before. Was that capturing a panoramic shot?
Send that reporter packing.
Oh, he's a reporter.
Go, get inside at once.
There you are, Miranda, dear. You like these best? My sweet Miranda.
She likes daisies best of all. You do know that Miranda might not come back.
Miranda knows lots of things other people don't know.
Secrets.
Secrets like? Do you love her?
She knew she wouldn't come back.
She did. Well, hence why she told her to stay there? Look how they're all just trying to get along today without a care in the world, and yet the girls are missing.
Voilà, mes enfants. Our dear Irma is with us but for a few hours to join her parents in Europe.
Will they want to talk to her? It's also funny how much older she looks to them as well.
Tell us, Irma, tell us! Tell us, Irma! You know what happened. Tell us, you Tell us, Irma!
Well, and as a teacher, do something. You might have overstepped the mark there. I mean, get them in line, but not by slapping them.
Mademoiselle.
I was thinking a second ago when they were all getting mad. What was that saying? Hell hath no fury.
It's for our own good, to cure a terrible stooping.
Other than a woman's scorn or something. I'm sorry, what? They tied her up?
I noticed, ma'am.
And that pushed her to hand a notice in. She's like, oh my god, it's all falling apart. Girls gone missing, reporters coming a sniff. And now this.
Have we be an invalid in the house?
Miss Sarah's supper, Mum. Mademoiselle asked me, seeing as the child's feeling poorly.
Oh. Kindly tell Miss Sarah not to put her light out until I've had a word with her.
Did I miss something with her being tied up, by the way? Was it because she had feelings for the other girl? Because they saw it as sinful?
This is not a charitable institution.
Sorry if I missed anything with that. It went from them berating the other girl to then suddenly she was tied up, so...
You recall our recent discussion. Answer me when I address you, child.
Yes.
I have considered your situation most carefully. I have searched my mind and my conscience for a solution. But this is not a charitable institution, and as your fees have not been forthcoming, I have been forced to make certain arrangements on your behalf.
Come on, you've already got so much idiocy go on.
You will be returned to the orphanage.
She's weirdly happy about that. Better than this place, I suppose. It's like they're all judging her. A weird smirk. Where's she gone?
You still thinking about that
Did she run off?
I can't help it. Comes back at night in dreams.
I had a funny dream last night. There's this smell, real strong. Like I was wide awake. Pansies, that's what it smelled like. And the whole place was all lit up, bright as day. Pitch black outside. And there she is.
The girl.
Who was it?
He saw as well.
My kid's sister.
Oh.
Haven't seen her since the orphanage. She always liked pansies.
Wait.
All sort of misty-like.
Kid sister? Orphanage?
I was in an orphanage once. I had a brother then, called Bertie.
Sarah?
Sarah! It is Sarah!
By Bertie, she says. Come a long way to see her, and now I must go.
He's her brother, and he
That's
doesn't...
through that wall over there.
He doesn't know?
We were speaking last night about the Wayborn girl.
Yes, Sarah, Wayborn.
State of her health. Her guardian, Mr. Cosgrove, arrived this morning and took her away with him.
Oh, did he?
But was she fit enough to travel?
Apparently.
I should have been here to supervise.
Mr. Cosgrove was in a hurry to get away. I shall not be coming into luncheon, mademoiselle.
No, for Sarah.
No, for Sarah. Is that rouge I see in your cheek, mademoiselle?
Powder, madame. I find it becoming.
Oh, what is happening? And she's fearing she's losing control of everybody, because she has. Oh, the sound of the sea and shells. Au revoir.
Au revoir, mes enfants.
They were singing Frere Shaka. Frere Shaka.
Arthur, my late husband, and I always took our annual holidays in Bournemouth.
Bournemouth is a lovely place.
Nothing changed. Not for 40 years.
As now. Yeah.
That guest house, so dependable. Completely and utterly dependable.
She is also drunk as a skunk.
A little more, mademoiselle.
No, madame.
As you wish. I came to depend so much on Greta McCraw. So much masculine intellect. How could she allow herself to be spirited away? Murdered in cold blood like a silly schoolgirl and
No, she wasn't.
Will Sarah Wayburn be coming back?
Now, where was I? Oh, yes, Bournemouth.
Way to change the subject.
Nothing changed. Ever.
Other than your mind and subject.
Bloody kids.
Is Sarah in there? Wait. No, did Sarah jump? Because she was out of bed in the morning, wasn't she? Please don't. No! I did think, because the bed was empty, I know the thing was there.
Sarah.
Did she know?
Sarah.
Did she know? Heartless. God, the fact that the clock stopped at the same time.
The body of Mrs. Arthur Appleyard, principal of Appleyard College, was found at the base of Hanging Rock on Friday, the 27th of March, 1900. Though the exact circumstances of her death are not known,
what?
It is believed she fell while attempting to climb the rock. The search for the missing schoolgirls and their governess continued spasmodically for the next few years without success.
So she
to this
fell.
day, their disappearance remains a mystery.
I had wondered if maybe they just all jumped. I'm sure I've heard this music somewhere before. This film is beautifully shot. And that was when she said she was like an angel.
Miranda is is a Botticelli angel.
That exact moment, pretty much. But they never explained what happened. Wonderfully powerful film. They never explain what happened though. Well, actually, I know they couldn't have run any tests or something. Was there nothing they could have done to find if there was a certain poison? I don't know when those kind of tests would have been around. I don't think 1900 was around the same time that could have been done. I'm trying to think if the whole thing about the poisoned ants, and that was in the newer one, because I feel like that would be the answer. They ate the food, but then the other girls ate the food as well, unless only those ate the ants. Because I know they said about poisonous snake as well. But you did see the ants eating the food at one point, so that's what made me think, was it because of the ants?
The mystery aspect immediately enthralled me. In addition to that, it was the unease, the tremendous unease that the book created. It's in my line of work, it's the sort of films I've done in the past deal with this sort of thing. And so I began to look for what caused that unease. And I think that is directly linked to something which doesn't have all the answers supplied. And that's what intrigued me about her book. It answered enough questions to satisfy and posed enough to intrigue. You can imagine after reading the book, I couldn't wait to get to the rock to see if it was as good as it read or whether she'd embellished it. And it was as good. Everyone reacts a little differently. For me, it was somehow like a man-made fortification almost. It was as if it was once a ruin, as though it had been a citadel of some ancient peoples. And that impression remained with me, and I think in certain lights on the rock you can see faces, you can see turrets, you can see towers, you can see walls. It is like a kind of city in the middle of a plain. And I've tried to get some of that feeling into the film.
It only really occurred to me recently that Peter Weir was really very young when he did this. I know that because he was 10 years older than me, only 10 years older than me, which made him 29.
You can almost sense faces in the rock, and I thought, well, I'll use that straight off. You would sense, without knowing for sure, the tribes are long gone, but this had been, no doubt, sacred ground.
She could have been a huge star, the amount of work she turned back, and I mean, a great, huge star. I think she's a wonderful actress.
I really enjoyed him because he was such an Aussie ocker. And he was the only one in that film that had that non-English sort of being about it.
It's hard to play that character because it was already a cliche then, the kind of outback, laconic character, and yet he had an innocence about him, John, in the way he portrayed it.
Incredible film though, really lovely cinematography. Yeah, they made a point a couple of times to mention the ants. That's what's making me think, yeah, that exact thing. Viewers are reminded again and again of the venomous snakes and poison ants that populate the Australian landscape. Yeah, so that's what's making me think, was it that did it? Yes! I didn't spot this as being a little nod reference to it. When the girls are on top of Hanging Rock, seeing the picnickers from above, she says that they're like a lot of busy little ants.
It was very unnerving meeting Joan Lindsay on the set. I'd met her obviously a number of times beforehand, but to have her right there on the day I was filming with her very characters stepping off the pages of a book, I was most anxious to see her reaction, and she was pleased.
There was something about her that was metaphysical or of another world, and you always felt as though you were talking with somebody who had the most tremendous inspiration from somewhere and didn't quite know from where.
I was fascinated to hear that Joan Lindsay had dreamt the book over a period of, I think it was something incredible, like 4 weeks. And it was so intense an experience that she'd got up the next morning and written down what she dreamt.
Okay, sorry. Maybe this was made sense of, and I know there was writing around the board that Sarah was tied to in that scene. It didn't feel like that this was the reason for them tying her up. I felt like there was a more sinister reason. In the gymnasium, Irma finds Sarah strapped to a board meant to correct posture, apparently in an attempt to cure of her terrible stooping, although the image of her strapped to the wall with leather belts would not be entirely out of place in the Marque de Sade and all that is. In all these respects, Sarah is a significant cause of gender trouble. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe it was because they didn't like the way she thought about things. Yeah, because there's elements in the story of female desire.
You know, I was always bothered by the idea it was like lesbians or something. I mean, so boring. It wasn't that, you know, and it wasn't truthful. Kids at school, you know, in that sort of pubescent period and early adolescence do get crushes on the same sex. It was in Joan's book too, you know, so I had an understanding of this kind of energy that would come from young girls locked up at that age in the middle of nowhere, really. And there would be, yes, you could call it a kind of sexual energy too. It's part of the energy. But I would call it really rather life itself held back, which to some degree is school anyway. You know, you don't really begin living till you leave. But more so when there's a stopper in the bottle. But it was part of the story, no question of it, I think. But as I say, more linked to a communal aspect of that. This peculiar energy, it became peculiar, I should say, because of its interaction with the disappearance. And all sorts of strange electrical feelings were running around the townspeople and the schoolgirls and the teachers. And this had very negative aspects to it, this kind of energy. The way they are in that gymnasium happened on that day. It was one of those uncomfortable scenes to film, because the girls were living the parts. When they turn on her and in her red, you know, which was obviously carefully chosen in some sort of provocative and symbolic colour of blood. And when they turned on, you know, just rolling the camera, that was an exhausting day for all concerned. And there wasn't any chat in between scenes, and I'd try and liven it up a bit and say, you're doing fine, but you don't have to live this, you know, but they did.
The whole Sarah thing, though, of what happened to her, I think it was because she couldn't live without the girl. She didn't really have anything else to live for. That's why she started smiling when she was in the bed, because she thought, no, I'm not going to let you win. I'm not going to let you take me back to the orphanage. I thought that she was happy to go back to the orphanage. I don't think it was that. I think it was that, no, I'm not going to let you take control of me. I'm going to end this the way that I want to end it. But when we saw her bed empty, the reason I thought, okay, she's not gone in the carriage, was because we didn't see her in that scene. When we saw the empty bed shot, we also saw that the lantern beside her bed was still on. And I feel like her or whoever was going to make sure she got out of there safely would have seen that. But then why did nobody realise that she just never got in the carriage in the first place? I had a feeling though. Remember I said to you, did she really though? Are you sure? Did she not just run off or something? It just felt very odd. It was just a mystery that happened. And I prefer that it's a mystery. And there were various elements that referenced the 12 o'clock thing, almost as if they were going to include it in the plot at some point and then never did. Because when we see, and the wife is sat there and the husband walks behind the policeman guy, in the background, the clock, and at least as far as I could see, it said 12. So I thought, well, maybe that's what they're going to realise. The policeman's going to be looking at the clock thinking 12. I had no idea this was going to be shot in Melbourne, Australia. And yeah, apparently then the new show also included Australia as their location that they filmed at, and I believe also Hanging Rock as well.
As anybody seeing the film will notice, there's some stunning buildings in South Australia, particularly the building we use for the college is absolutely marvellous and in beautiful condition.
There you go, Martindale Hall near Mintaro in the state of South Australia was the location of Mrs. Appleyard's school.
Martindale Hall was completed in 1879 at the cost of £36,000, a very princely sum for those days.
It was like a house full of ghosts. The portraits were on the walls, the chairs they'd sat in were there, all in period, or nearly all.
I can't honestly say that I find it a happy house. I find it slightly oppressive inside. It's the atmospheric, certainly. The purposes of your film, I think it's an excellent choice.
A long time ago, I played Miranda in Picnic-At-Hanging-Rock, and it's the first time in about 41 years that I've been back to this very special place. I'm here because it's really important to me that this place that was so special in terms of my story is preserved, because it's part of everyone's story, really, Australia's story. So Martindale Hall isn't just a building. It's a little piece of history, living history. The original story is a very romantic one, if somewhat sad.
Mr. Edmund Bowman, who owned the land, was in love with a certain English lady who apparently was not keen on coming out to pioneering discomforts, and who lived in a Georgian mansion herself in England. So to induce this fair lady to emigrate, Mr. Bowman said he would build a replica of her home in England, and this resulted in Martindale Hall. The lady didn't come after all.
Thankfully, it was given to us as a gift. It's an opportunity for us all to experience history in a really alive way. It's like stepping back in time, and that's special.
And we went out there, and I'll never forget turning around that corner and seeing it.
It could not have been more perfect. And the drive out from the motel where I'm staying outside Clare, through all that rolling countryside, and then suddenly to see this is a stunning reaction when I first saw it, when Peter Weir, the director, drove me out the day before I started filming. I really couldn't believe my eyes, you know.
Oh, I like this. I don't know what this is from, which version this is from. I think this is from the book itself, from the Hanging Rock book. But apparently, girls realised that they were in a presence of a time warp, and they follow the math teacher into it. So the math teacher has already gone in. But it says they follow the math teacher into it through a crack in the rock. They enter another dimension and never return. But the interesting thing about this is it says that the girls understood that they were in the presence of a time warp because they saw their suspended corsets, which is interesting, as in like their corsets just hanging in the air.
It freaked him out a little because my arms were covered in tattoos and he thought I was a bit mean. Probably was a bit mean towards him at that stage, but we came to best of mates, and he's a terrific bloke and he's not up himself at all.
I was kept from knowing him during the filming because one of the other girls had a crush on him, and her friends conspired to make sure that I never got anywhere near him.
He's the loveliest guy, Dominic. He was just a great guy. But he had that slightly hesitant, almost stuttering upper-class English accent. And he talked like that.
Oh, I didn't know that. The novel of Picnic-At-Hanging-Rock was one of the first Australian works to join the Gothic literature genre.
I took it home and started reading it at the kitchen table, and I thought that would make the most fantastic film. Peter said to me, look, you're terrific at finding things and creatively. And I said to him, yes, but I don't know the ropes. And so he suggested that Hal and Jim come in, and I was very happy.
Hal, my brother, and Peter worked together at Film Australia, and all of us became friendly.
We liked each other, and of course he was enormously talented, and everybody could kind of see that immediately. And he's, of course, a very charming man. We read it and went, oh, wow, that's a great book. And he said, well, you know, I'm working with Pat Lovell and Cliff Green on a screenplay. Do you want to read a screenplay? And we said, yes.
After some discussion and some further script work, we felt we'd got it to a stage where it was ready for financing.
Joan Lindsay and Peter immediately were soulmates. I could tell.
I just remember her as being a very sweet, nice, older woman, but very strong. You know, there was a sort of an iron will about her, which was very attractive to be around, you know.
So apparently in Beyond the Rock, The Life of Joan Lindsay and the Mystery of Picnic-At-Hanging-Rock, Janelle McCulloch claims to have solved the mystery. The details are pretty sketchy, but McCulloch seizes on the sentence Lindsay deleted from the novel's foreword. For the author, who knew Mount Macedon and the Hanging Rock very well, as a child, the story is entirely true.
How old were you? Can you remember when you first saw the rock?
Oh, I was very young, and it made this extraordinary impression on me. And then I saw it last about 5 years ago, I think, before it had been so much built over as it is now. But it's still got the same magic to me, thank God. It doesn't welcome us, does it? You wouldn't say it was a welcoming place. But it obsessed me, it really did, without putting on any sort of an act. I used to lie awake at night thinking of it so clearly. I just saw it all passing before my eyes, usually lying in bed at night. When I woke up in the morning, I knew exactly what the next bit was going to be. I never had any trouble about what was going to happen. I just knew.
I think one of the things that made it most intriguing, and when I kind of figured out that something was happening with time, was Bertie, I think his name was, who turns out was Sarah's brother in the end. He said they would leave with an hour to spare and they would get there on time, or something along the lines of that. And that felt like a very odd thing.
You know, the sound editing was superb. The cicadas and the birds and the bird life and just the sound of the bush and where you put it relative to the music or the girl's breathing or the wind. You know, these are very important and they can make a hell of a difference in terms of setting a mood. We were asserting that maybe it was the landscape that took these girls. So the landscape had to be alive.
Feel free to leave your comments below. Feel free to let me know what your thoughts are on this, what your theories were for some of the things. Feel free to let me know in the comments below.
Peter and I did have a lot of discussions about how the film should look. One of the things we settled on, and I had always been very impressed by the Heidelberg School of Painters in Melbourne. I loved their impressionist look that they got in their paintings. And we sort of had a good hard look at a lot of those paintings, and we sort of settled on what should be a diffused backlit sort of look, which those paintings all have that wonderful light from behind. So that gave me the opportunity to develop what was an old still photographer's ploy. I experimented with putting nets in front of the lens.
So apparently, and I've heard of this technique before, and I have tried out similar things myself, Russell Boyd reportedly enhanced the film's diffuse and ethereal look with the simple technique of placing a piece of bridal veil over the camera lens. See, I've seen so many different things about placing different types of cloth, even cheesecloths, and smearing Vaseline or, you know, Lipsil or whatever it may be, so some kind of cream, even just like a moisturizer cream, smearing a little bit of that over the lens in different areas. Obviously it does a different look to that. Yeah, it's a very good technique and it does wonders, as you can see within this film. And then you'd be able to attach it on with probably like an elastic band around the lens would work really well, whereas depending on where you need it from the camera lens, putting it right in front of it works really well. It obviously depends on if you're zoomed in, etc.
I remember he came in and he, one day and he said, I borrowed my wife's stockings and I'm going to just stick it over the front of the camera, which he did. And so that was that diffused look.
To find the right material for these nets, I went into David Jones' wedding department. I think I was the only bloke who'd ever been in there, actually. And I got some sideways glances too, but I asked the shop assistant to have a look at, if I could have a look at some wedding veil material. She must have thought I was nuts, I'm sure. So I selected a certain wedding veil, which is actually probably more like the grading of like a mosquito net. And I bought a couple of yards of that and bolted out the door.
Anyway, apparently the opening lines by Miranda,
What we see and what we seem are but a dream within a dream,
are a paraphrase of lines from the poem A Dream Within a Dream by Edgar Allan Poe. I knew I'd heard them from somewhere. When I'd heard the lines, remember I said, they sound familiar and I don't know why. Apparently the lines appear as the last two lines of each of the two verses of the poem, with a slight rearrangement in the wording.
One night, Martin Sharp and Peter Weir and Karen Robson and I, we decided we'd drive to Martindale Hall. We got in, I think there was a caretaker there, and we got in. I remember Karen actually just went to the bookcase and she found Edgar Allan Poe. She opened it, it kind of opened itself, if you like. And where did it open at? All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. And so that went into the picture, straight away.
Dominic, the part you play, that of Michael the Englishman, and of course you are English, would you come to a place like Hanging Rock and offer to stay overnight in those surroundings?
I don't think it's quite fair to put it like that without first saying why Michael in fact stays, because there is, for Michael anyway, quite a serious reason. Infatuation he has for the girl Miranda. Being English and not knowing about Hanging Rock or the bush or anything like that would probably leave me open to that idea.
First time we went up the rock and looked at the location, I realised that only between like 12 o'clock and 1:30 sort of thing, we'd get a perfect light on the rock. So I said to them, we can only shoot this scene bit by bit. We've only got about an hour or so's window every day to shoot what was originally going to be one full day of shooting, so 8 hours. I was thinking, God, we're going to have to stretch this over 8 days. Light played such an incredibly important part in that film. I felt I couldn't manufacture it. I couldn't even try and recreate that beautiful light that was there for an hour a day. So fortunately, they listened to me and
Anyway, executive producer Patricia Lovell admits to being genuinely afraid of Hanging Rock. It honestly does seem very creepy from everything that I've seen about it. Yeah, apparently, in an interview, she explained that she had only gone back to Hanging Rock once since the shooting. It was 10 years later in 1985, and Lovell said she got so frightened at the location, she left almost immediately. She refuses to go back to this day.
First impression was, oh, it's kind of lumpier and smaller and less majestic and inspiring than I expected. But then when you get to it and go and walk amongst it, it really is a scary place.
Hanging Rock is quite an ominous location. It's a real location, obviously. We used to climb it 2 or 3 times a day, and it was quite exhausting. Like, we'd go down for lunch, which I remember was always totally covered with flies.
Part of creating the mood of this picture involved the change in camera speed. That is to say, I used what was known commonly as slow motion. But that slow motion was sometimes imperceptible, and I wanted it that way. I think at its most successful, it's imperceptible. Yes, there's a very obvious one where Miranda crosses the stream on her way up the rock, in which it's 50 frames a second or something quite noticeably slow. The ones that are I think most effective were close-ups. There's a number of shots of the various characters, like Michael as he watches her, or some of the girls in the story, where I shot it and asked them not to blink, and I made sure they weren't moving, and there was no wind in the background, so that you wouldn't know what was different about the shot, because you don't see that slow blink. But it would feel different on some unconscious level.
The greatest problem was handling the 2 major atmospheres of the book. That is a period story, and yet a story which is quite contemporary. Such a strange disappearance could occur this weekend somewhere. It could occur next year. It probably occurred in 1400, let alone 1900. So while creating the atmosphere of 1900, at the same time I had to make you feel that slight unease in your theatre seat, that you might walk out of this theatre the night you see the film, or you might put the milk bottles out the night you're looking at this television program, and something might happen, something inexplicable, that will alter the pattern of your life.
I used to go there when I was a kid. We'd go for picnics and climb all over the rock, but it was only when going back to make Picnic-At-Hanging-Rock that I actually became aware of those faces in the rock.
I remember the goats on the rock, who some people said were manifestations of the girls.
Apparently 12 of the schoolgirls were played by South Australians, courtesy of Adelaide's Satterley Company Youth Theatre Group. Director Peter Weir wanted girls who were less influenced by the modern world. I do like that idea, to play the turn-of-the-century schoolgirls, and he found most of them from the more provincial Australian state of South Australia. I do like that idea, yeah, people that weren't influenced by modern technology, modern cultures. However, it did mean, though, that apart from Anne-Louise Lambert, none of the other girls had any acting experience. Honestly, you would have never guessed. And their amateur performances meant Weir had to cut out much of the dialogue. Oh, that's why they barely speak. I thought they acted really well, especially in the scene where they get really angry towards the end. Fantastic. The girl who was the one that was found, I thought she was a very good actor.
The kind of wealthy young ladies that attended Appleyard College are no more. In fact, it was a great problem in casting to find young girls with enough elegance and style and breeding to be able to reproduce the type of person that was at the school in 1900.
A minority of the pupils at the school could not, however, bear the description elite. Sarah Wayborn, for instance, depended entirely on her rather forgetful guardian for her continued existence in this privileged atmosphere.
The schoolgirls were cast both in New South Wales and Victoria and South Australia. Girls came and went, but they had to look right.
And it was in Adelaide that we found in casting there that was still the case there. And so that's where I cast the majority.
So he was always looking to add some extra dimension, to find something else in them, physically, in their look, in their attitude, in their physicality.
Not much acting was required in the scenes with Mrs. Appleyard and her students, as their real-life relationship was rather tense. Interesting. I thought she was a battle axe. absolute battle axe. I was trying to think of the word, and that was it. Yeah, Rachel Roberts, who played Mrs. Appleyard, preferred acting to a piece of tape on the wall instead of actually having the girls stand there. How rude is that? Imagine if the girls said that to her. Sorry, Rachel, you know, we'd rather just act to a piece of tape on the wall. She would be massively offended and would throw a fit.
And then we went out to film the first scene, and she had to look at the girls, and she's farewelling them. There will be no tomboy foolery on the rock, that kind of dialogue. The girls were standing there looking up at her, and they disliked her. And she came to me, and I thought, oh, no more trouble. This is going to be hell. And she said, would you mind if the girls left the set? I'm perfectly happy if you put a mark up on a C-stand, a bit of tape, because the way they're looking at me with such hatred is throwing me. And I said, right, okay. So the girls were removed, a little bit of tape, and this consummate actress performed perfectly to the tape.
Also, the role of Mrs. Appleyard was originally taken by Vivian Merchant. While travelling to Australia, Merchant became ill in Hong Kong, and Rachel Roberts took over the role at a few days' notice.
I cast Vivian Merchant, who was then married to Harold Pinter, and I'd met her in London. I admired her work anyway. She's a superb actress, and she seemed just right, and she was happy to do it. Unfortunately, at the very last minute, she became ill and withdrew. And I found myself then looking at various films in the evening. There was Rachel Roberts, whom I knew from the screen and had admired. She'd been on a short list, I think. Amazingly, she was free, and she joined us, you know, within 2 weeks. She was wonderful in the way she threw herself into it. We had a beautiful wig made for Vivian Merchant, which fortunately fitted her, but she looked very uncomfortable. She said, I can't wear this, I just simply can't. I said, well why is that, Rachel? And she said, it's considered bad luck in the theatre to wear another actress's wig. And you don't think you could overcome that, you know, being a film, and here we are in South Australia. She said, I just couldn't wear it, I'm sorry.
Rachel arrived with her own wig.
I ended up with an enormous dilemma, having to say, Rachel, we've got to get rid of this wig and get something else.
She just insisted that this was what suited her, and everybody was appalled. But I think she ended up getting her own way, as far as I recall, and I'm sure she got her own way in almost everything. Always.
I thought a little bit about not having that wig brought to Australia, but she had other thoughts. And of course, we end up with that wig.
Cinematographers have to work very closely with the actors because we are actually in the front line. I seem to remember Rachel as being fairly aloof towards us. I doubt whether she knew any of our names even by the end of the film.
Rachel, as Mrs. Appleyard, really was the headmistress 24 hours a day.
She just sort of stepped automatically into those shoes, and that was the way it was going to be. And, you know, keep your knees together, young lady, and chins up, and that was on and off the set.
She made very sure that she didn't build any relationship with the girls, any offset relationship, which I interpreted as being she wanted to stay in character, that she was not these girls' friend, she was their stern, prim, rather sadistic headmistress.
Rachel was a dragon, really, a scary person. I didn't have a great deal to do with her, and she saw to that. On the few occasions that the schoolgirls were invited to any grown-up event, there was a definite segregation, but we were invited to dinner. She would make sure that we were all sort of put down the end of the table so that nothing distracted the various men from her in the course of the evening, and she liked to drink.
She did do a few outrageous things. I mean, I think one of the funniest, and which had everybody terribly scared, was we were in this motel in Adelaide.
There was a great flurry around her room, and then the door burst open.
And somebody came in and said, Rachel's in the courtyard, stark naked and making such a noise. Will you come and help? And everybody else had flown for cover.
Because she was from the balcony just screaming the world.
With a sort of siren call for any sort of willing participants in a night of fun.
Here I am, you can take me. And
I could just imagine all the blokes trembling in their boots at the thought of that. A night with Rachel.
She was what you would expect. You know, I expected, and she certainly lived up to my expectations, of a consummate actress, you know, absolutely professional and dedicated and totally committed to what she was doing.
Watching her work, you know, oh, gee, she was good. You know, she was spot on. And she, you know, like a conductor of the orchestra as the director, you know, I could ask her to slightly vary a performance one way or another and she would do so.
I wonder if that's also some of the reason that the girls didn't necessarily get along well with Rachel, because she was quickly brought in to cover Vivian.
Well, although it may seem, I sort of have grown to rather like her, though I don't think she's a likeable person. But I think I admire her rather indomitable spirit. And I think she's misguided, but her enthusiasm for the school and the things that she, and I expect a lot of headmistresses emphasized in those days, i.e. deportment, which I don't have, and English literature and romantic poets and how to speak well, how to behave correctly was the norm of the time, wasn't it?
According to a park ranger at Hanging Rock, over the years since the film's making, nearly all of the cast have returned to visit the rock at one point or another.
When I went back originally for the first time after Picnic, there was a car park where those fields were. That was a bit of a shock, but of course, you know, and then I went in and there was the Discovery Centre, and then there was the cafe with the tea towels with my face on them. It was a bit like, oh my God, what have we done to you?
Strange things did happen around the rock, and it could be magnetic. I think this is something that's said in the film, and it could easily be. I tried not to think about it too much in case everybody refused to go up there.
The rock has this mystical power about it.
Equipment went missing and watches stopped and all of that stuff actually happened.
I really love the place. I love being there. I don't find it, upsetting or scary or any of that.
There was a very odd thing that happened, and everybody witnessed it, which was there was a sudden absolute no noise when we were all on top of the rock. We were filming, and then suddenly there was just a moment of, it was a weird thing, because there are natural sounds, and there was so silent. It is an amazing place, the rock. It has these faces in it, and they are, it sounds crazy, but they are Aboriginal faces. In the rock there are faces, and one or two are caught on in the film.
I have never found the rock ominous. For me, it's always been about something else. It's mysterious, for sure.
I knew it. There was a scene on Hanging Rock. The girl was talking to the teacher, when they took her back there to look at the place. And when she was talking, I was thinking it, and you might have seen it on my face, I didn't say it. This is the reason I say it, that it seemed like her voice was dubbed, the girl's voice. Turns out, it was. Some of the schoolgirls' voices were later dubbed by professional voice actors. The voice actors were not credited. Christine Schuler, who played Edith, had her entire voice dubbed over by actress Barbara Llewellyn.
We were having issues with the music. We didn't quite think it was right. And then Jim said, I remember some music in a documentary on the ABC. And I'm going, will you stop talking about music on a documentary? We've got problems with the music.
I managed to track down the original recording and another recording. And I took them home to my house and rang Peter. And I started playing them to him. And he said, look, turn up the album. Then turn down the album, turn up the cassette. He wanted to hear the mix between the two.
We rang the performer and composer and asked him if he would write something for the film, and he didn't want to do that. He said, I've moved on from that. George Zamfir, this was. So we just bought the mechanical rights to the particular track that's in the movie.
And so out of that came the panpipes and some other pieces. It was just a lucky stroke.
Slowed down earthquake there in certain sections, so it would just register on the optical track.
What stage are you at the moment with the scoring of that film?
When you leave, I'm going to finish, because he's going to record it tomorrow. But I'm only doing minor music. The major part of the music is Romanian panpipes with an organ accompaniment recorded at the George Enescu Memorial Hall of Bucharest. I believe they probably fit. I don't know how well. I love the music. I think that, George Zamfir, the panpipe player, is stunning.
Anthony S. Ingram, a 13-year-old filmmaker, first got permission from Joan Lindsay to adapt her book to film as The Day of St. Valentine. Ingram had filmed only 10 minutes of footage before the film rights were optioned to Peter Weir, and Ingram's production was permanently shelved. Oh, that's so sad. The film's footage is included in some DVD releases by Second Sight. I half wondered if maybe they would have used some of it and, you know, just paid him for use of the footage.
I think one of the other major production problems was to pay attention to the smallest detail, because if the smallest detail isn't right, then the bigger details won't be right. So even if props weren't seen, my art department knew I wanted everything to be authentic and to be real.
But the way this particular story is put together is uniquely the creation of Joan Lindsay, fed through my sensibility, and therefore I think it's a standalone picture. Certainly I've never made another film without an ending.
While filming on location at Hanging Rock, actress Anne Louise Lambert, Miranda, had a most surreal encounter. During a break from shooting, Lambert went for a walk through the woods. She turned to see Joan Lindsay, author of the novel Picnic-At-Hanging Rock, stumbling towards her. Lambert said Lindsay then embraced her with a strong, joyful emotion and called her Miranda. It was a powerful moment for both of them. That's so cool. Being told by the author of the book that you are acting in the film of, being called the name of the character that you are playing is such a cool thing.
I know that probably everybody's heard Anne Lambert's story about her having just been a bit troubled by a scene she'd been involved in, and she was wandering around at the base of the rock and she saw this rather frail-looking woman coming towards her.
I met Joan Lindsay only twice. The first time I was coming down the rock for lunch and I'd had a fairly upsetting experience, just not getting it right, or feeling like I hadn't been getting it right in a scene that I was doing, and so I was actually heading off on my own just to have a moment, and I became aware that there was someone coming after me across this quite rough ground, and it was this little old lady who I just knew had to be Joan. So I stopped and waited for her, and she just came straight up to me and threw her arms around me and held me really hard, and right into my ear said, "Oh, Miranda, it's been so long," and was very moved and emotional and held on to me for a long time. It made me feel a lot better on two counts. First, that it was right that I should be playing the part, that she recognised that, and that felt good. But also it made me think that something true is in the story.
And that led me to believe that Miranda had existed in Joan's life, that she was based on a real person, and that there was something very true about this, about the story. Maybe not in terms of the facts, but in terms of its, symbolic meaning or its personal meaning for her.
It's about something that happened to her that even in her old age still carried a terrific punch for her.
I first met Joan Lindsay, fittingly, at The Rock, and it was about the second day of filming, I think, and midsummer, very hot. There I was, corseted and stockinged and gloved as Mamselle. And I'd gone under some trees to find some shade while they were doing the next setup. And I heard a voice say, "Bonjour, Mamselle." Turned around and there was Joan Lindsay. And we conversed for a while in French. She kept me on my toes.
Joan, how does it feel to be back at Hanging Rock after all these years? It really feels pretty wonderful, but rather spooky. And I'm glad it does, because that feeling of the rock, I could feel it before I got out of the car.
It was a curious thing. She did look at you and talk to you, but I did get the impression every now and then that she was sort of seeing, I don't know, the world of her book somehow. She saw past the actor playing the role and was talking to the character that she had created.
Oh, that's brilliant. The cast and crew travelled to Adelaide, coincidentally arriving on February 14th, St. Valentine's Day. How weird is that? Yeah, that day in 1900 is when the novel and the film began. So I know in the film I do mention Melbourne, Australia is where it was filmed. It was filmed at Hanging Rock, which is also Diogenes or Dryden's Rock, and that is a place north of Melbourne, Australia. But yeah, when you look it up initially, it doesn't necessarily say Melbourne, Australia. It will say Mount Diogenes, Hanging Rock Reserve, Wood End, Victoria, Australia, also known as Hanging Rock.
A monument to 3 lost children in the district in 1867 seems to foreshadow the events of 1900. Jock McClarty, who lives in Mount Macedon, has read the book and says all the connections are there if you look for them. What are some of the connections you've made?
Well, you can recognise a lot of the family names that Miss Lindsay used. It's possible to recognise the horse and vehicle used in the book as the type of vehicle that coggers would have had for hire at the time, and it's possible to recognise the tracks they used from the book.
What about Lake View? You've got a theory about Lake View. What's that?
Well, the description in the book fits a property that known locally as McGregor's, and part of the McGregor's garden there were 3 man-made lakes. The rock is of volcanic origin, obviously, and there would be a lot of caves. It sounds hollow in places if you stamp on it. This is a possibility that they may have fallen into a cave and only one girl got out.
Even though both the movie and the book is based on a claim to be inspired by real events, the story is completely fictional. Author Joan Lindsay, who wrote the novel, enjoyed the hype that her publisher created by claiming that the story was true, so she as well never decisively confirmed or denied whether her story was based on or inspired by true events or not. Hanging Rock, yes, is of course a real place, and so is the surrounding towns mentioned in the book. But the times are wrong. Here you go, so this is actually what it does say in the novel about whether it's true or fiction. In a foreword, Joan Lindsay says, "Whether Picnic at Hanging Rock is fact or fiction, my readers must decide for themselves. As the fateful picnic took place in the year 1900, and all the characters who appear in this book are long since dead, it hardly seems important."
It's always been true for me. Perhaps I view things a little differently, but the line between truth and fiction is a very blurred line for me. It feels real. It feels true. I know certain aspects of it are true, quite true, but I've never doubted it for a minute. If it didn't happen exactly that way, it might next week.
Nobody's quite sure whether the story is true or false. What would you like to think that it's true? Judging from the letters in the novel, which I read, you kindly gave me to read, where it says the Melbourne papers of 1913, I believe. I like to think that the novelist took some genuine journalistic copy. I like movies like that are based on reality. I really do.
But I don't think it matters. I wrote that book as a sort of atmosphere of a place, and it was like dropping a stone into the water. I felt that story, if you call it a story, that the thing that happened on St. Valentine's Day went on spreading out and out and out in circles from that first thing that happened. And it went on, and it affected so many lives and so many people and so many generations ahead.
So here was a mystery that was not going to have a solution. So in a sense, it was an extremely dangerous commercial enterprise, despite its low budget in those days.
I'm afraid that everyone who's enjoyed my book or read it, they will really have to work it out for themselves. I know it's a mystery, but I hope it's a bit more than a whodunit. Not that I could write a whodunit, but I feel that this is something, a mysterious thing that could have only happened where I write of it, and I can't really and wouldn't wish to try and explain it any more fully than that. You'll all have to work out what you think is truth for you, because truth is everything to me.
Oh, okay. The girl who played Rosamund, Ingrid Mason, was originally cast into the role of Miranda and not Anne-Louise Lambert. Director Peter Weir decided that she didn't have the worldly quality that the part required.
Leanne wasn't the first choice for the role. Somebody else was. a girl called Ingrid Mason, who was quite different to Anne.
This is then why he reapproached Anne-Louise Lambert, who accepted. The film's producer, Patricia Lovell, managed to convince Mason to take the lesser role of Rosamond.
During rehearsals, I remember Peter came to Hal and I and said, look, this is not really working, and I think we ought to bite the bullet. And he took us to a photograph of the girls assembled. He said, this is the one. And clearly she was.
Peter came in one day and said, look, it's got to be Anne. It's got to be Anne. You know, oh my God, what can we do? But it was one of those, got to bite the bullet and do it.
I got a call from Peter saying that he was very sorry and that he'd made a mistake. And would I consider accepting the part back?
I called her back and tested again, as I recall, and began to realise that this quality she had was exactly apropos of the part. That, in other words, Miranda was not like the other girls, and she knew things.
It was a question of the role suiting the person and the person inhabiting the role.
I had to do a huge band-aid on the original girl and did talk her into coming into the film as one of the senior girls.
I was so different to her. She seemed like such a natural and loving, warm, kind of sunny, uncomplicated kind of person. And when I think back to that time, I was so shy and hypersensitive, and yes, we were quite different.
I thought she left the picture too early by disappearing, and so I came up with, as I recall then, the idea that we should reprise her, that she would come back in a kind of almost daydreams that particularly the Dominic Guard character, Michael, would see.
Commentators have pointed out that the film is set at the end of an era from multiple points of view. The setting is the year 1900, the last year of the 19th century. Appleyard College represents the rigid culture of the Victorian era, and the era ended with Queen Victoria's death in 1901. The film's events are also placed a year before 1901, when the British colonies in Australia unified into the Australian Federation.
The one thing that was said before the film, and by the critics after the film, that was a fault, was that it was a mystery. I have a view that one of the main reasons the film was a success is that it was a mystery.
And I said, my God, we've got to say somehow to the audience, Picnic's real, because then you don't have to solve the mystery. So I remember ringing Peter the following day. I rang Jim and I rang Peter and I said, we've got to somehow say this is real, but we can't say it's real because we don't know whether it is real. So we agreed that literally on that call to put that legend at the front, white lettering on black, before the movie began, without sound. Of course, what that said to the audience in tradition of filmmaking was, this is a statement of fact. We never said it was fact. We just presented it as fact. And of course, the audience came to believe, to this day, many of them, that it's a true story.
Oh, real-life mimicked art. When filming at the scene at the creek, Christine Schuler lost her footing on the stones and fell into the creek, hitting her head. For real. In an interview, Peter Weir detailed an important lunch meeting with the book's author Joan Lindsay at her farm. She had director approval, and Weir was warned not to ask her a particular question prior to the meeting.
That question, that I'd been prepped by the publisher, who said, don't ask Lady Lindsay whether the story is true or not. Now, the book is introduced by a paragraph that says something like, whether this story is true or not, the characters involved are long since dead, so it hardly seems to matter. So it was obscure and tantalising and implied that it was true. So I thought, whether I get the job or not, I must ask this question, otherwise it's a bad start, and I have to know. She has to tell me all the secrets. So I introduced the question over that coffee in that lovely room. That I said, Lady Lindsay, I've been told not to ask you this, but is the story true? And she said, young man, I hope that you do not ask me the question again. And I said, that's fine, okay. And I said, well, I'll move to another difficult question, and you may tell me that you're not going to answer this, but I said, I mean, do you think it's wide open what happened to these girls? I mean, in your mind, do you think they fell down a hole? Do you think, for example, they were abducted by aliens? And she said, any of the above.
Peter created a terrific atmosphere for actors to work in on the set. He was absolutely focused on the content of a scene, I found, and that was very supportive of actors, particularly if it was a difficult scene.
I'm sure in the 2019 version, at the end, you see more than just what you've seen in this. You see some other stuff and reasons why they did what they did. Feel free to check it out though. Oh, I didn't know he did Dead Poets Society, Peter Weir. One of the 2 films that are directed by Peter Weir that features a character reciting Shakespeare's Sonnet 18. While the 1989 film revolves around a boys' school, this one is centred on a girls' school, yeah.
I remember Peter came to Hal and I and said, look, I've got this fellow by the name of Martin Sharp who I'd like to have involved on the film. I'd like you to meet him. So we met him, and Martin's knowledge of the book was absolutely encyclopedic. He knew every facet. Peter felt unthreatened enough that Martin could bring up any subject. And Martin's a spirit who tends to speak his mind, and Peter's a spirit who has the ability to accept people's views.
But I think when you've got a very strong structure, as I had in this particular film, it's wonderful to experiment. And I came from an experimental background in the sense of theatre, writing sketches, and then short films. And so I'd grown up in a wonderful way pre-film school with trying things out and thinking on my feet.
The Secret of Hanging Rock, which was a cut final chapter from the film's source novel by Joan Lindsay, was published posthumously in 1987 as an individual work without the original novel with it. The work also included various discussion points, critical commentaries, academic analysis, and interpretive theories of the Picnic-At-Hanging-Rock 1967 novel and mystery. The length of the excised chapter, which was removed at the suggestion of Lindsay's publisher, is 12 pages.
Her work in Picnic-At-Hanging-Rock is very fine work. I think Sarah is just works as a character, you know, and moves people. She's obviously decided to not be an actor anymore and has left all of this behind.
Oh, Miranda.
Many people have looked for her. In a sense, she's missing.
Before I actually wrote the screenplay, I'd never been to Hanging Rock before. And I went over on my own and I climbed the rock and I got lost. I couldn't work out how to get down. And I finished up, I knew, well, all right, if I find my way to the base of it and then walk around, I'll get to my car sooner or later. So I actually came down on the far side of it and found my way around. But Peter got lost on it too. He went up on his own and he said, well, that's what you... And Joan said, well, of course you've got to get lost or you won't be able to make the film. One marvellous moment on location, we were at the Rock, and, well, a marvellous moment for me, it was the scene when they found Michael and he was in a state of disarray, and I suddenly had this moment just as they were shooting it. I thought, what if we could... And he had his hand out like that, and he was trying to... Peter had him trying to verbalise what was going on, and he couldn't. But he kept saying, Irma, Irma. And I thought, what if he hand opens and we have a little piece of lace, stained lace in his hand. And I said, I whispered it to Peter. Oh, he said, well, we're certainly going to do that. So the props person got a little bit of lace, or the wardrobe person, and we did the thing. And the way the music's, and it's for the most chilling moment in the film, when you realise that she's in desperate trouble, that if her clothes are torn, that she's in, and that's all you needed to do. And it's not in. Oh, I put it in before the script was published. I made sure I put it in the script, but it happened on the moment.
But it died.
She always struck me as impossibly elegant, you know, because there's good old fat dumpy me, you know, there's Karen, who just, you know, is just willowy and beautiful. Lovely, lovely lady.
Everything about her was just sort of slightly eccentric and yet gorgeous. And you just couldn't take your eyes off her.
She was very into the filmmaking process.
I did the audition. They took some photos of me. They must have sort of thought, oh, maybe she's a possibility. And they told my mother, because I was 13 at the time, well, she'd better go and read the book. Do you have a copy? No. Oh, okay. So my mother went and bought a copy. She went to the kids section of the bookstore because that's where she felt the book would be. And the lady looked at her and said, no, madam, I think you'll find that in the adult section of the bookstore. So I don't know what my parents thought I was getting into.
Miranda, don't go up there, come back!
With an untrained actor, you really have to pretty rapidly drop a scene that is not natural to them because they don't have the technique to fake it. And so the scenes that she was in were substantially those that she deeply understood, and she did understand a girl who was proud of the fact she had, you know, was so popular, at least as she saw it at that moment.
Edith is always pictured as being very much on the outer of everybody.
Jenny Lovell took on the role of Blanche in this film, with some objections from her mother, producer Patricia Lovell, who worried that it would appear as if Jenny had got the part in the film because of her mother's connections.
Peter and I decided we should go to the Rock. So I said, I was driving, and Peter was saying, you know, we don't need this rock. I mean, he said, after all, we could do it in the Blue Mountains, and all of this was going on. So we ended up in Bacchus Marsh because I wasn't watching where we were going. But we then got on the right road. But we came through Macedon and ran that way. And suddenly, from the tip, we were on a rise, and I look over and I see this little jumbled pile in the distance of rocks, in the middle of a small sort of plain with hills all around. And sitting right on top of it was a cloud. And I went, absolutely, I mean, the hair went up on the back of my neck. And I said to Peter, look, that's it. But it was an extraordinary experience, and I know we both got goosebumps going up. And then I went on ahead, and suddenly Richard Peter, I could hear this voice saying, Miranda, Miranda. And so we came down, and we knew there was no other place to shoot it.
It really did almost overwhelm us. I mean, I think if it could have eaten us up, it would have then, because I don't think it knew what was about to happen to it.
This was shot in 6 weeks. What? Only 6 weeks for that entire film. There's so many long pans and shots and stuff, which is good, I suppose, for filming time. You can pad out a lot more of the film with these longer shots, but I don't think that film was far too long or too short. I think it was perfect.
We shot the film in 6 weeks, which was a week longer than we'd had on the Cars a Day Paris. So the pace was relentless. And for the poor director who carries the burden, this is a very fatiguing time. Peter really had magnificent endurance because holding something like that together is quite an exercise, quite a task, quite a feat.
If you see a director who's committed, then the crew's going to work that much harder and the actor's going to work that much harder.
I think Peter's got the ability to collaborate with people to actually inspire them to get the best work out of them, because he's such a calm person with such a great sense of humour.
When I sat down with Picnic-At-Hanging-Rock, I was somewhere in my early 30s. Patricia Lovell had brought it round to me. I mean, I knew who she was. She was a television personality, but that was a very curious knock at my door. I read it from cover to cover, was gripped by it, and by the fact it was an unsolved mystery. I said to Pat, how do you go about this? I mean, do you have to get rights? I mean, that's how early it was in the revived Australian industry. But the gatekeeper was Joan Lindsay herself. She was a woman of refinement, of elegance, a woman from a world as vanished as is the world of the characters in Hanging Rock.
Last but not least, this final piece of trivia. This was the first theatrical feature film of the South Australian Film Corporation, SAFC, to be remade. This was as the 6-episode television miniseries Picnic-At-Hanging-Rock from 2018, the first film version of Storm Boy. The original feature film, Storm Boy 1976, is the second major cinema movie of the SAFC to be remade as Storm Boy 2019. Both of the original films debuted during the 70s.
But it's an extraordinary thing to me that people are not content to leave it as a mystery. I don't know how many of my listeners now have read it or whether they want to know the exact chapter and verse for everything that happened. But I can only say that for me, fact and fiction are so closely allied. Some of it really happened and some of it didn't. And to me, it all happened. It was all terribly true for me. But I don't wish to spoil the mystery. It's written as a mystery, and I always tell these well-meaning people who want to know everything, I just say, well, it was written as a mystery and it remains a mystery, and I'm very sorry. And by the way, I never went to that school as a girl. So people who think, which was on the blurb of one of the Penguins, which was a great mistake, but I didn't see it, they said I was at school, at this awful school that I've written about in Picnic. But of course I wasn't. And it wasn't anywhere near there, really. But I did go to Mount Maston, where most of it takes place, as a little child of 3. In fact, I said my first words at Mount Pleasant, but certainly not at school.
It is a mystery without a solution, and I think that's what will keep it alive.
I have found out that the piece of music from the scene where he sees the swan, and also at the very end of the film, as far as I know, it's the same piece of music. The music piece used is this. It sounds so familiar, at least within the film at some point I said, this sounds so familiar, this piece of music, where have I heard it before? And I think I said it at the very end. I'm fairly sure I said it throughout the film as well at some other point. But the piece of music actually does not start in the scene with the... I say the swan, and I mean the bit where he sees the ghost of her, and there's a swan. That piece of music is actually started in the previous scene to that, where they're hugging. The two girls are hugging. The French girl is hugging the girl on the bed because she's back and she's safe. And in that piece of music you hear this piece of music. Okay, I'm going to play it for you and then see if you can guess what it's from. It's a little music lesson, okay? Because little did I know that I actually knew where it was from, and I've got a little fun little thing I'm going to tell you in a second, but here it is. Did you hear that? Right? Where do you think you've heard that before in film? Yeah. It's called Adagio un poco mosso. It's called piano, I think it's piano concerto, Beethoven, it's Piano Concerto number 5 or something. But I found it when I was trying to figure out what that piece of music was during the edit. Somewhere from West Side Story, that song is referenced. It's like taken as like a reference piece of music to use as the tune itself. I don't know the specific wording, sorry. But that being said, fun little fact that for about 3 weeks now, since I did the last poll, I realised there was something that I really wanted to put out on the channel. I reacted to West Side Story many a moon ago, like a year ago now, something like that. And it's available as an uncut. I'm planning on putting that out at some point soon. It won't be yet, because there's still another couple I've got. Within a few films' time, hopefully, West Side Story is going to go out. Fingers crossed. So apparently it's not only just used in this, but it's also used in... Yeah, it's used in Dead Poets Society, Picnic-At-Hanging-Rock, West Side Story from 1961, and The King's Speech. Yeah, Beethoven's Piano Concerto number 5. Anyway, back to the video. By the way, I don't think it's very often that I will watch something and adore it so much that I don't really know how best to put it into words, how much I like it, how much I just love every mystery or little aspect of it. And this is one of those films because, so I finished the edit and it's scheduled currently, but I'm not happy with my thoughts that I've already made mention of in there, because I feel like there's so much more that I could have said regarding it, because once I'd finished, I was extremely tired that day when I shot the video, and I had planned on going back and recording a ton more of me just expressing my love for the film, but I thought, well, I don't think it needs it. Like, it needed it because I wanted you to know how much I loved it and adored it, but I don't think it needed it because you guys had your own opinions on it, and just seeing like the bits of trivia and my initial thoughts hopefully would have been enough. But then thinking on it, I was just wondering if maybe I should have said some more things. So that's why I'm doing this little quick piece to camera, is I just wanted to say I genuinely, I just loved the passion behind the project. And it was only until I had checked out the behind the scenes footage, the talk from like the director, the cinematographer, even the writer Joan Lindsay herself, all of this extra information I found out and fell in love with the film more. I adored it once I'd seen it because I thought, oh, wow, this was so beautifully put together. This mystery story that they had taken made seem so otherworldly, and then also added their own twist in there and obviously put it to film, whereas originally it was just a book. And I have yet to read the book, but I have read snippets of it as I've been going along, but I've just not had time. I never really get time to read the books that sort of go along with it. I know people have mentioned that to me about reading them, etc., but that takes a lot of time to sort of to add on to the process. And obviously being able to read the entire thing and then also give my thoughts on all of that alongside everything. By the way, this is going to be added in most likely near the end of the video, just as like a quick piece to camera, like addition that's not going to be edited whatsoever. And yeah, so I'd seen the film, and I know I was so intrigued, confused, mystified by certain things that were in the film, like the reason the time stopped, the ants, and all these little tiny things which just don't matter whatsoever to the grand scheme of the film itself. But in my head, those were points, those were moments where I thought, okay, this needed, I needed to figure out what was going on in this moment. But overall, I liked that the mystery was so mystical. if that's the right term. Yeah, I'd seen it again, obviously during the edit, and I was content just watching it. And I watched it back again. So whilst I was editing, I also watched it on a second screen. I was watching it, and yeah, so many points to the film still stuck out to me. Like I was there. There's a point where there's a piece of background noise that keeps happening, that woo noise, and I was going, what is that? Is that wind they've slowed down or something to add in as extra sound design? No, it turns out it was a slowed down earthquake. That's what they mention in the behind the scenes. And just little additional things like that, or the noticeable absence of sound throughout quite a few scenes, or you'll just get the natural sounds of the rock and of the wildlife around it, and that's it. Or you'll just get these eerie notes of something, or the is it panpipes? Is that what they said it was, panpipes? Or is it, because I think I said it was like flutes, or the pan flutes or something. I can't remember specific. Yeah, and it's such a gorgeous production, and the time and effort that took for them to piece it all together was mind-blowing. So yeah, I wanted to just make mention of this here because I don't feel like I came out of the film, and sometimes you know when you have these thoughts on something but it takes a little while to get there. Like initially, having seen the film, I was so bewildered and bemused maybe is the right term, by certain aspects of it, and wondering, why did they make this choice? Why did this happen? It wasn't necessarily I was trying to find answers to make the film make sense, but it was more I was curious as to why creatively they chose those things to happen, because I enjoyed them, and why they decided to go that route instead of plainly telling someone or going about other means towards an answer. Like, for instance, when they're at the top of the rock, I love that this is something that I didn't see mentioned anywhere in anything, but it could have been mentioned in the novel, is when they get to the top of the rock and she looks down over and she sees the girls below, she doesn't reference them, and I may have mentioned this, but she doesn't reference them as the girls and, as her friends, as her school friends. She just makes mention of them. Oh, look, they're like little ants or something, she says. But the way she says it is almost as if she doesn't know who they are. Like the rock made her forget. And I love that. Just the tiny little, just imperceivable little details that you don't really notice unless you think about it and they go, wait, but she... And that was something I picked up on when I was watching the film, but that's why I said... I may not have said it, but in my head I was going, but it's like she doesn't know who they are, but they're her friends. And yeah, so there's so many elements of it that I did adore, and I feel like when I came out of it that I really did not give it justice in the opening. If I could have put this at the beginning of me chattering, then I would. However, this is 8 minutes worth of me talking now, roughly. Probably a little less than that, because I think the beginning I need to trim off, but still. Yeah, thank you for watching it with me. I hope you've thoroughly enjoyed this. I am very, very happy with the film, with everything that I feel like I've said so far, other than obviously not giving my initial thoughts on the film too much. All the acting, by the way, superb. Absolutely superb. I thought they all did a fantastic job for their own type of characters, and even watching it back with some of the interviews that I saw, there was one interview that I was trying to find. I was trying to see if the English guy, if he'd done an interview, but I couldn't seem to find anything. I could be wrong. Maybe he didn't do an interview for them, but I believe for the most part they did interviews with the rest of them. I know one of the girls come out of acting, but I believe she is on the footage doing an interview. But such a good film. And yeah, I adore that. There's other parts of the background information to do with Joan Lindsay that I did not include. However, if you check out the interview with Joan Lindsay specifically, I didn't include it because I didn't want it to be judging her on her character or anything, but it was additional context to her character. Not that she's a horrible person, I don't mean it like that, but it was some comments regarding, and I did see other interviews that were mentioning this, and it wasn't necessarily regarding her, but it was regarding other girls that had been to the Rock and that kind of thing, about, I'll say it, that they could stop time, that they could stop watches, and I say time as in not the actual element of time, but they could stop, people's watches. And there was a piece of interview where someone's saying, like a Q&A of, oh yeah, and I stopped these girls' watches when they came up to me, or they said their Instagrams weren't working and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, yeah, I don't quite believe that. I mean, maybe they did. Maybe they did. Maybe it was. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do believe in very eerie, strange things happening and little, time splits. Not time splits. What are they called? Time glitches and stuff. I believe in that kind of thing because I know that have happened to me before. So, little things that you can't really make sense of, or like you lose time in a day, or maybe time freezing as well, but I don't necessarily say that I can stop time. I wish I could, but I can't. Time traveler and all that. Yeah. So, yeah, I just wanted to make mention of this really quickly at the end. Not really quickly, it's 11 minutes, but anyway, I better go and let you enjoy your day. Also, huge apologies, this was not put out on Valentine's Day like I'd wanted it to. It's actually going out the day after, in case you're watching this in the future. Time and everything. Hope the future's well. And I hope you guys are well as well. Thank you so much. Take care, and I'll pass you back to Past Marty. Bye. Anyway guys, thank you so much for joining me with this. That was all of the trivia for today. Hope you really enjoyed it. I picked out the very best that I could find. If you've got any other bits that you would love to let me know, feel free to in the comments below. But I just want to say a huge thank you for you watching until this very point in the video. I really appreciate it, and it means the world to me, so thank you. If you'd love to put the little secret phrase in the comments below. That will let me know secretly that you've watched until this very point, and it's also my little way of saying thank you as well. So the secret phrase for today to pop down in the comments, if you'd like to, is "a dream within a dream," which is one of the first lines uttered in the film. That's it. A dream within a dream. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Hope you have an amazing day, and if you would love to check out the full uncut reaction to this, you can see it over on the Patreon page or as a YouTube member as well. But yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you so much for requesting it as well. I really appreciate it. Take care, guys. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. If you're still here to the very end, then thank you so much, and also a huge thank you to my wonderful patrons: Roger C. Griffith, Douglas Collier, Terry V, Miggy Love, Chris Holmes, Jojo, Thomas Masters, Shoehorn1234, Res, Patrick Durr, Andrew Blount, Carlos, Marla Mize, Rob, Chandra Blair, Scott, Paul Zawicki, Randy, Kirsten, Juan Pablo Camero, JL, Maggie, Freya Alexandra, Milo, Miranda, Edna, Gina Aman, Tess Avaland, Olivia, Maria Stoicheva, Neno, Megan Janoviak, Rainy Tomo, Strawberry Tree, Kirsten Bailey, Boobly Boo, Louise Vanderhoven, Aubrey Terry, Wraithist, Heidi Steele, City D, Bumblebee, Joshua, Jesse, Rena Burrow, Meat, Lolita Verbakovskia, Eli, Holly Jeffries, Alenka Hafner, HM Garth, Chloe Grover, Neb, Kyle Baker, Abby Barker, Tom Tattershall, Kristen Olds, Tilly Chum, Laura Hutchison, Tara M. Wilcoxon, Sazzy Nation, Ferdinand Pitchard, Jim McKay, Sphere, Mel Days, Fran in the Pen, BG, Tara, Rags and Muffins, Nameless Human Being, Deb, Philippa Chapman, Emily, Panda, David Wayne Fox, Jessica Asakovich, Sue Pro, Naja and Workshop, Mike Tunnicliffe, Wolfgang Wolf, Lee, Harvey, Ankame, Aninya, Evan G, Violet Aurora, Pamela Chandler Rash, Scott Howard, Joshua, Robert Williams, Steve Webster, Amanda, Lipaz, Jamie Dodds, King, Happy Go Lucky, Caitlin, Analytical Guy, Maria Torres, Cliff Adams, Jonathan, Dirk, Annie Bonds, Crystal Appleby, Scorpius, Monica Murphy, Sebastian St-Ange, Varga, Leslie McKittrick, Nick Stark, Number 1 Carez, Jen, Biff McKeldin, Birgit, Stephanie Collins, Emily, Ken Duncan, Max, Helena Klitsch, Amy Quattlebaum, Ry Levi, Wayne DeFries, JJ, Mikhail Augustine Reed, Malcolm Hope, Lee Hallam, Bill Waite, Charlie Elkin, Mika Least, Jeffrey Welton, Aleidoscope, George, Ingrid, Stephanie Sexton, Jude, Bera, Robinio GD, Catherine Ellis, Vincent Barre, Sammy Fan, Eric Jansen, David K, Stephen, Edcat, MB8, Border Collie Lover 223, Caitlin, Juiced, The Gallifreyan Rebel, James, Johnny115, Tim, Paul Hess, Frank Tex, Marie Clark, Robin, Matt Quinn, Offer Rock, Bruce Heckerman, Joe, Victoria Helm, James Melton, Beatrice Soiler, Siegfried, Clara Grow-Louis, Lana Gorgeous, David Stafford, Rebecca K. McDowell, Ashley Stanley, Sophia, Fabian, Paul Byrne, Bear, Nadia, and Chris Thompson. If you'd like to see more videos, there's some more on the screen right now. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and see you next time.